Right, Cassie. Spinach, chard, and let's open it up. Other leaves.
Yeah.
Right? Spinach for me straight away. Cartoon. Popeye's in trouble. The big fella's got hold of him. The can comes out, he pops it, it goes up in the air, it drops in, and then it's on the world.
Yep.
Are you old enough to that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's right then. I feel a little bit better. That was my childhood. So that's my first experience of spinach. Yeah, spinach in a can and spinach that was going to make you strong enough to take on the world.
Yeah.
And then I tasted it as a kid and went, no, this is not really for me.
It went downhill.
Yeah, it did downhill from there. But all joking aside, that as an image, spinach, chard, is incredibly good for us, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We all think of spinach as iron dense, don't we? It's packed with nutrients and phytochemicals. It can help to dampen inflammation and alleviate muscle soreness. It's just really good for it. And we're all told that we should eat more greens, and there's a good reason for it. It's really full of the good stuff.
And actually, interestingly, again, let's go back, it was when I first started veg gardening, even chard, there was a little bit of chard kicking around, but not anything like there is now. And I suppose in the cooking world, it was, wasn't it? Not so much chard, but growing wise, I mean, now we're talking this, you do really well to fail with perpetual spinach or chard. No, don't shoot me down, anybody, if you've tried it's not worked. But containers, it's happy in a container. Some of the leaves look stunning, especially if you can get a mix of like the rainbow chards.
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, and out of one you can have these sort of dark, rich reds, and then right through to sort of glowing gold.
Yeah.
And these stems are absolutely incredible.
They're
And spinach again, perpetual spinach comes again. So after pots, borders, put it in the borders. Put it in the borders. I am expecting at some point to rock a house for the dinner party that I know you're going to invite me to, and see you having an ornamental kitchen garden.
It's going to happen.
I think a lot of what we've talked about, growing it. Let's just think about growing it in a veg garden, and I think that's sort of daunting, but it's easy to grow, and I'll talk to them as to how you go about it. But what about you? What about sort of first visions of spinach and?
Yeah, I think the same as you, Popeye, would relate it to Popeye and just think, that's going to make me strong. That'll, and I even say it to my eat your spinach, that'll make you strong, because it's so ingrained in me. But I can't say I ate a lot of it growing up. I remember my mum making a spinach souffle once, which I think was a disaster, actually. I think it was a real, like an old Delia recipe or something that she cooked for a dinner party, and it all went, terribly wrong. So that wasn't a great first memory of it. But I love it now. It's, something that's pretty much always in my kitchen, and I cook with it.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think it's another one of those veggies. Even if you don't grow it, when we were talking about peas, frozen peas, I think another frozen veg to keep around is frozen spinach, which I don't think we do enough of.
I couldn't agree more. There's always a bag of frozen spinach in my freezer, and as long as you cook it in a sympathetic way to it being frozen, I even chuck it in smoothies. My kids love a green smoothie, spinach and banana. In a curry, a sagaloo, it actually benefits from being frozen, because you want it to be broken down like that. So there's loads of great ways you can use frozen spinach as well.
Yeah, and exactly, because I mean, sometimes as well, if you go and buy spinach, think that you're buying a lot of spinach. And you get home, you actually haven't bought that much spinach. It's nothing. It's sort of, it sort of steams down really quite quickly. Yeah, but it is a plant. It is something that I use a lot, and every single member of the family will get stuck into spinach. So, as I say, as far as growing it, I suppose again it's not unlike some of greens and whatever. It will take a certain amount of shade, semi-shady conditions, and also always make sure if I'm planting in the ground, it goes into a well composted, good soil, quite free draining. That said, I never really want my sort of large leaves to run out of water, if that makes sense. So I'll always keep an eye on the water as the season. But it's a plant that I definitely do from seed, and I sow. So it's one of those, you create your little drill. Probably really spring. I mean, I right through the season, realistically, and it cuts, it comes again, but then I freshen it up every now and then and start a new one, and sometimes I'll overwinter. If we have a mild winter, it'll overwinter, and I let it come again the next spring. So sometimes you can get more than one season out of the plants, and eventually they get a bit woody. But you create your little drill, probably 2.5 centimetres deep. Water the bottom of that drill with your watering can, and then you sow the seeds. I don't know if you've ever seen it go to seed, but they're quite big seeds. They're like little knobbly little things. So you can see exactly where you're going. It will tell you on the packets to sow thinly and.
But you just chuck it in, right?
Yeah, you got it, girl. You got it. You got it. Goes back to the same thing. Is it tells you to do this. That is only ever a guide. It's another one of those things. I have seen it grown in window boxes.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key with this. The rules are like. We're not calling them rules, I think it's a bit like, they're guidance.
It's like cooking, isn't it? It's like following a recipe, and you can follow it as a guidance, like you say, but it's okay to break the rules sometimes. I think this is what I'm learning from you. It's really encouraging me to give things a go, because I feel like you're allowing me to just chuck a few seeds down and see what happens.
But that's exactly what it is, and in this excitement, I used in my sort of images. Sometimes, I love going to places like Italy, and I always feel like rules and regulations in Italy are only just purely a suggestion. Not actually, they're sort of, and I use that same thing. I pick a packet up, it tells me to do X. I read the season. I think, there's some warmth in the soil. No, the soil's a bit cold. If I want to start early with my spinach, I might start it in a container. If not, it's going straight in. Once it goes in, I cover it back over. Germination, once the weather starts to pick up, we're talking a couple of weeks. And what you can do, if you want, you can let it come. You could then thin it properly. And what I mean by that is start to space out the plants. Probably, I don't know, whatever, anything from sort of 40, 50 centimetres to 100 centimetres, depending on how much. But all those thinnings could be used as baby spinach, so you could use all those and then start to let it mature. And I work my way with the spinach. I work my way across the row. So I sort of cut the whole lot, and working my way across it, and then by the time I get to the end, this lot's coming up again. So I don't necessarily go in and do again what they tell you to do of pulling the bigger leaves off. I do a whole thing, and then for me, I get a nice mix of the slightly older leaves, and I get a mix of the baby leaves. The baby leaves don't even need the centres taken out of them, whereas your older leaves, you might just have to strip them back. But it's another one of those nice jobs, just pulling them off.
That's the beauty again of growing your own, is that you get variety, don't you? Not everything's the same shape and the same colour. You get a bit of different texture going on. You
do, which is lovely. So spinach, it was an easy win with spinach, because it's quick enough to do. It's reliable, midweek dish.
I think it's the kind of thing people chuck a handful of spinach into lots of different things, don't they? You might chuck a handful into a curry or a pasta dish because it's so good for you, and I think we're all very keen to get more greens into our diet. We know that it's super healthy. So there's loads of different ways you can use it. I mentioned sagaloo which is one of my favourite ways to eat spinach, because it's really it makes the most of spinach, doesn't it? It's lovely and good. Rich and green. So I love making a spinach curry out of it. What I also love to do with spinach is something we talked about with Cavolo Nero, where you make a puree and then you can use it in lots of different ways. So I now make like spinach pancakes for the kids, green pancakes, and they think it's really fun, and they don't realise they're getting loads of nutrients in their pancakes. I call them little monster pancakes.
I like
bright
that.
Green, just mix it into the pancake batter.
So your modern Popeye.
Yeah,
it's not tins anymore, mate. It's knocking up the pancakes.
And if you make
I love
puree,
that.
It freezes really well. We talked about having frozen spinach in in the freezer. But if you're growing your own and you want to freeze it, a puree is a really good way to go. And then you can use it in loads of different ways. Stir that through a risotto at the end, and the colour would just be amazing. That vibrant green. Gorgeous.
Yeah, because I use it. I suppose a lot. I do use it with pasta dishes in the week if I'm knocking up something really quick. They're always an instant fix. I also find sometimes actually just a really simple. When we said about pairing things up, I don't know if it sounds odd, but it seems to work. Sometimes if I do some spinach, I might just do it with a few shallots or whatever. I'll finish it off with nutmeg.
Yeah, that's a classic. Spinach and nutmeg is a match made in heaven.
And
it's amazing.
It really does work. Yeah, and
really
again,
does.
it's just taking that dish and just putting a twist on it. And
do you know what else works really well? A simple spinach dish is if you fry off a little bit of garlic and olive oil, add your spinach, let it wilt down, and then you add some raisins and some toasted pine nuts and a splash of sherry vinegar.
Oh.
And it sounds like a bit of a strange combination.
It does, you're right.
And the sour and the irony spinach, it's delicious.
Yeah.
It's really
Where would that originate from? Something like that sort of dish?
Probably southern Italy, maybe the islands around Italy, maybe that kind of feel to it.
Yeah, wow. From sort of spinach, we move on to, something like chard. And as far as growing it, do any different, I suppose the one thing that I might do, if I think about the different places I grow it, because I do grow quite a lot of it, because again, for me, it's something that really I don't have to worry about pests, bits and pieces. It gets pretty left alone. So I'll start some out in the raised bed, and then, because that warmer quicker, and I might fleece that over, and then I'll go into the main sort of veg garden. But chard, I normally start just after the spinach. I don't know why. It's maybe just something that I've, sort of taken myself in that row. But what I love about chard is the mix of stuff. And I think that the bit that always I'm never 100%, because again, a lot of the taste in that chard is in that rib, in the stalk. But I'm never 100% sure what to do with the stalk.
Yeah, so don't chuck the stalk away.
No, I don't.
Like you said, there's so much flavour in it.
Yeah.
And even earlier you said about stripping the spinach leaves and getting rid of the stalk, but I would never get rid of the stalk. I think there are tougher parts of the veg, and as long as they're not spoiled, there's ways to cook them which will enhance them. So think about it like meat. You get tough cuts of meat and then tender cuts of meat, and you cook them in different ways. And it's the same with veg.
I will say my spinach bits don't go to waste because my two girls, they ride horses, don't they? So anything like that, mate. Any peelings off carrots, anything like it goes in a bucket. And then they take them down the horses. Okay. Horses are having a great time.
Yeah, they're having a lovely lunch.
Yeah.
So I would do with the stalks is just chop them up finely and fry them off. Same with the chard. You just want to treat them in a slightly different way. Obviously, the leaves cook, within seconds. They wilt down really quickly. You don't want to overcook them. But the stalks just take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So, just if you're having a simple kind of fried spinach, chard dish, cook those first and then add the leaves in at the last minute.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of gorgeous gratins actually on the Good Food website. I remember when I first started working here, I don't think I'd eaten much chard, and Barney, who I work with, brought out this chard gratin with cream and nutmeg and Gruyere and breadcrumbs on top. And honestly, it was like one of the best things I'd ever eaten. It blew my mind.
Yeah, it's
I still think about it
over
10 years later.
Yeah. Bless you. It's like, do you think the two taste different?
I don't think there's a lot in it, really. No. I think maybe spinach I would eat more raw, whereas chard has a bit more bitterness in the leaf.
It does,
eat it raw.
And you get the sense that, I don't know, again, it might be a psychological thing, but the chard leaf, it not just the wrong word, but it does seem there's more body to it.
More robust, isn't it?
Yeah, so there's a sort of it feels slightly thicker.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, but you can. I mean, it is interchangeable in lots of dishes, isn't it? You can use both. But chard is, I mean, it's just such a beautiful thing. The rainbow chard. It's so beautiful, isn't it? And that, like, braised off with some lentils or something, if you really make the stalks the hero of the dish, it just looks so lovely.
Yeah, and I think again what you're saying, it is definitely another one of those. Doesn't have to be in a veg garden.
Yeah.
That this definitely going in your ornamental kitchen garden.
Do you know, I've always had this vision that one day I would be that person who had a veg garden outside, and I would cook all my meals from my veg garden. And I think you'll help me to slowly become that person.
Good.
I'm going to mix it all in with my flower beds, like you said.
And I'd sort of encourage people to do that. So I mean, they're both good, hard-working plants, really easy to grow. If I was going to do it in a container, and I suppose this is a lot when we talk about container veggies. What you might find is I might make a bit of a mix-up, so I wouldn't just necessarily just use peat-free compost. I might put a little bit of topsoil in, or it depends if it's free draining. I might add a little bit of gravel just to help free drain it a little bit, or if I know it needs to hold moisture, I might put it off a tangent a bit, but actually I think it'll help you, because you'll put all the programs together and it'll help. I don't just use straight compost a lot of the time. I think, what does a plant want? Where would it be happy in its natural environment? And then I have like a baking cupboard type scenario with compost. So I'll have peat-free compost. I'll normally have some topsoil kicking around. I'll have some composted bark, probably some grit, a little bit of horticultural sand, which is sort of lime-free sand, and then something called perlite and vermiculite. You've heard me talk about vermiculite for covering up seeds. Well, that's just like a particle, and that keeps the moisture in when you're sowing seeds in trays and things. And perlite is this sort of volcanic thing that it's like tiny little sort of rocky type, but really quite light, So that's my ingredients cupboard.
Yeah.
So when I make these mixes, and I just make sure that they suit the particular plant that I'm trying to grow in a pot, you know. So I think in a way that sort of chard greens, if we open it up to other leaves, a plant that I really, really love, and I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, is rocket. I think rocket is an undervalued plant, and a lot of the rocket, the wild rocket, that you would literally, because when it comes to growing it, it's easy to grow, but it does like slightly cooler conditions. So it's one of the plants that you can start off quite early in the season, probably in a near shady spot in the garden, not over shade, but good semi-shade. But also it's a really good one to do at the back end of the season.
Okay.
So what I tend to do, really early splash on things like rocket, and then as the season gets really, really hot, you'll find that your rocket starts to bolt and goes to flower.
Yeah.
So I might back off it then. Then I'll sort of introduce salad leaves to get me through the rest of the season. But come the back end of the year, I'm then boom, rocket sort of September time, and I can still be cutting that. Wow, going into November even, and as far as rocket as an ingredient, that's got a lot of, it's got a lot going for it, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has actually. It's got a lot more flavour than some of the other leaves, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's really punchy and peppery, and it can just add a really different kind of flavour to a dish.
Yeah.
So I love rocket as well. I'm the same as you. And I think we should use it more, because I think, we use a lot of watercress in this country, don't we? In different ways, watercress soup and all sorts of different things. With rocket, I think it kind of tends to be a bit of a sandwich stuffer. You put a little sprinkle of it on top of a risotto or something, but we don't often make it the star of the show. No. So what I like to do with rocket, if I've got a lot of rocket, is make a pesto.
Yeah.
Talking your language.
Yeah, you are.
And it's just packed with flavour. So much more flavour than a pesto you would buy in a jar. Just bursting with that lovely peppery flavour, and you can keep it in the fridge. If you make a fresh pesto, it doesn't last as long as buying a jar, but you keep it in the fridge for a week or so, covered with a layer of oil. Whiz it up with some nuts, and you can be quite flexible in what you use. You can use pine nuts or almonds or some cashews, whatever you've got knocking around really. Bit of garlic, bit of cheese. Absolutely delicious.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. My oldest loves making that. She's absolutely the oldest one. She's definitely. I mean, they all love cooking. To be fair, they won't all. Well, the little one probably not. Not so much, but it's interesting, isn't it, with cooking? I sort of, so the three of them would cook an awful lot, you know. My youngest one, not so much, but my number two, so the oldest boy, he really got into cooking when I told him that actually it was the easiest way to get a girlfriend. If you can learn to cook a few dishes, and you can invite a girl around and you can cook something, you know, not just bolognese and, you know, and chili.
I'll try that on my son.
Yeah, then you've got a good chance, you know. And he was away then; he was well in. But yeah, Abs likes doing, and they've all got their speciality little dishes. Actually, she's probably the one that will go, "Dad, have you got anything, you know, in the garden?"
Yeah.
Or actually, the boy will go if he's going somewhere. You know, he's going somewhere for a weekend. You got any can take? And
nice.
Which it is nice.
That's really
nice.
nice.
You know, you feel like you're playing their part, as to say.
Yeah,
but
there's that nice element of sharing when you grow things. Yeah. You know, you're inevitably going to end up with a glut of things. Able to, even like I've put a bucket of apples on the doorstep before. Just let the neighbours help themselves. And it's just so nice, isn't it? It kind of can create a bit of a community.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of when we talk about rocket again. It's another one of those plants. It doesn't have to be in you know. It can go in a pot. It can go at the front of a border. You know, it can go in a window box. And I think a lot of, you know, it's easy. It doesn't take a lot of care, you know, and things like that. And if you look at other leaves, I suppose that we've started to evolve. I suppose even as gardeners, if I look at, you know, micro leaves, are you into those or not, or is that a little bit chefy?
It's quite chefy, a bit chefy.
Yeah, it's a bit Michelin.
I'm all for making dishes look appetising and appealing.
I had a really famous cook say something about Michelin star stuff the other day that really made me giggle.
Oh, go on.
It's if you like this,
okay.
Too much foam and skid marks. That's what she said.
I would agree.
It was like, and I was lucky enough to be having dinner with her, and a wonderful Irish lady, but a real amazing, well-known cook, and it just made me giggle. Sorry, mate, I interrupted you there, and it was just to share that. So, microgreens, a little bit chefy.
I mean, I would rather just let them grow on a bit further and get more out of them. Personally, they can look really pretty on the plate, can't they? But I just like nice, honest food that tastes good, and I think when you get the leaves a bit bigger, then you can do more with them.
Yeah, I think they're if you're really into growing your veggies and you've got either a little bit of warmth in your greenhouse, you've got a spare room, or you know there's room in the conservatory. They're quite a fun thing to do because you can do them. You know, different parts of the season. Yeah. You know, you can produce things. And I suppose that's the point as well with a lot of, you know, what we're talking about. You know, if you have got, you know, a greenhouse, or some people, you know, have even got little polytunnels kicking around or whatever, this stuff, leaves, you know, will keep along through the winter months, you know, because they're not so strong on light. If it gets really, really cold, but actually if there's a little bit of warmth there, they'll just start ticking over, you know. So I have got friends that all their greenhouse are not all paved out or all gravelled out. You know, they've got a soil bed still, which is the old-fashioned way in the greenhouses, and they'll you know plant something from a pot straight in there and keep themselves going. You know, and I think if we even look at some of the salads now, there's a lot more. They've developed a lot more salad leaves that give us winter salads. Yeah. So we always think of those leaves, and I feel that if you're growing, you know, winter salad, which is so easy to grow, you know, cut and come again salads, and like you say, even if you're doing them in a greenhouse as well, the leaves they taste stronger, and whether that's the weather conditions, whether they're a little bit tougher so that they hardier and you know whether they taste stronger. It does mean that I tend to slice them a little more, so I don't use big leaves like that. But again, you know, what about how we've moved with salad leaves? I mean, what's your sort of approach with salad leaves? Because I for me, they're one thing that says this is what you buy from a supermarket. Yeah. Right. And this is what you have in the garden. Yeah. They are not the same thing.
Yeah, and it's sad, isn't it, that we buy a lot of these, you know, bags of salad, prepared salad these days, and it goes off so quickly. And I think it's one of the most wasted products, actually. Yeah. In the UK, we waste a lot of food, way too much food, and salad has a big part to play in that. And I think growing your own, you know, you can prolong the life of it, can't you? Because you just cut what you need. Yeah. and use it on the day, and then the rest of it keeps going and going, like you say. So for that reason, it is something we should all be growing, I think. And like you've told us, you know, so you can grow it anywhere. Why would you not grow your own instead of buying those bags of salad, which are just causing such waste? And they're not very nice. A lot of the time you buy them and they go slimy within a day.
No, and the problem is I know how they're grown, and a lot of them are hydroponically grown. Yeah. So, you know, and the speed that they're grown, you don't end up with a depth of flavour. Yeah. Whereas, you know, when you start, as sad as I am, getting into the, you know, the technicalities of what it's like to grow your own veg, so much flavour comes out of the soil. Yeah. So much flavour. You know, so caring for that soil. Well, if you're just going to pump a load of chemicals into something, you know, reality is that's really what you're eating. All right, it's not going to poison you, anything like that, but you're never going to get that depth of
that pure
just that flavour, which is, you know, which is, I suppose, the reason why I and so many people grow their own.
Yeah, and I think taking it back to kids as well, and, you know, introducing them to vegetables and growing and the whole story of their food from the very beginning. Salad leaves is such a great way to start, isn't it? Because I just, you know, buy a packet of mixed salad leaves, let the kids chuck them down into a pot, and they love picking it, they love eating it, they love salad. I mean, not many kids love salad, but they love it because they know what it is and where it's come from.
But I think it's that connection. It's that, I've grown this. Yeah. Wow, what? So that was all a little handful of seeds, and now I've grown it away. And again, you can use mixed salads. Yeah. You know, so it's so easy to grow. So little drill, water the drill, sow the seeds, thin it out, or just cut and come again, baby leaves. And I suppose that's the other thing we're doing a lot more now. We're using our veggies, you know, things like beetroot, for example. You know, you go and buy beetroot leaves, don't you? You know, you see that now, and so you can do that, growing your own beetroot. You know, you can use the leaves and pick your way through, and there's so much more stuff we can do
We've
like
talked
that
before,
as
haven't
well.
we, about having these kind of extra parts of the plant, like with the courgettes, and you get the beautiful courgette flowers. And what an amazing benefit to grow your own, and then you get these extra bits, you get the pea shoots, you know, all the lovely extras which just elevate your cooking as well. Yeah,
and talking about lovely, lovely things,
I have brought something
to
eat, as always.
I've been trying to avoid even looking at it.
It looks
for
good,
the last half an hour. It does look good. Go on, talk me through. Because it doesn't just, if I'm really honest, people, at the moment, I can see it's phyllo pastry, all right? But it looks like a flower. Do you know what I mean? It's got that sort of slightly ruffledy finish to it. You know, you could wear it as a brooch. It's got that sort of thing about it.
Good.
Go on.
This is one of my favourites with spinach, and it's really good for lunch with friends or if you're having people over. It's a spanakopita. So it's a Greek pie made with phyllo pastry, loads and loads of spinach cooked down, and there's lots of different ways of it, but this one's got onion in it, feta cheese, pine nuts, bit of lemon zest, so it's packed with flavour, but the bulk of it is the spinach. And you can make it with chard as well. I've made this many times with chard, and it's equally as delicious. Really nice with a simple salad in the summer. It's just lovely, and a really nice mixture of textures as well, with the crispy phyllo pastry on the outside and the soft side.
You're doing it again.
It's really good, and I think you're going to like it. So
go on. You get stuck in. I'm watching.
And wait for the crunch.
Yeah, go on. Shh. Did you hear that, people? Hey, it wasn't my leg. It was, honestly. It was just. That's incredible. What is it, that connection? Humans and food, but it's, I don't know, it's not. See, to me, if I'd grown the spinach and then managed to create something like this, I would feel proud of myself.
Yeah, this is so easy to make as well.
Yeah, really. Oh man.
All right, tuck in, let me know what you think.
Yeah. And so would you have this hot or cold, or either?
I mean, it's really nice at room temperature. I think it's probably best at room temp actually, but get in a lunchbox.
That's incredible. The flavours that sort of come through are really good, aren't they?
I think what we're hopefully showcasing as well with these episodes is that veg can really be the star of the show.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You know, we often put meat in the middle of the table for a special occasion, but something like that is such a showstopper. Wouldn't miss the meat at all. I mean, I'm a meat eater and I love meat, but...
And interestingly, though, I don't really... I don't call myself a vegetarian, but I don't really eat a lot of meat. And I think with me, I've more been an environmental sort of thing, and it's nothing that's happened. I've just backed off it over the years, and but at home, I think the boy's a bit like me, number two's a bit like me, but the rest are all. But sometimes convincing them, that. So I will cook an awful lot of veggie dishes, and they'll look and they're not quite sure, and they're saying what you're saying. Yeah, but are we having chicken with it? Are we having something with it? And it's interesting, isn't it, as humans, how I suppose a lot of us have been brought up with that idea of meat to veg, potato, and veg is ultimately the add-on to the main. It's the sideshow,
and consequently, it's never been given the love it deserves. Really, in classic kind of British cooking, it is always.
And when we describe, I mean, what do they think? Do they say something like you should have 30 different colour vegetables in a week or something?
Yeah, this is the new thing. It's don't think so much about eating 5 a day, but it's the variety throughout the week, and that's really, really good for your gut. To try and have a really diverse diet when it comes to fruit, vegetables, seeds, nuts, spices, all of those things. They're all so important to health. And when it tastes as good as as well, I mean, it's just a win-win.
That is definitely a win-win. So so let's hear a summary on spinach. Easy to grow. Put it in the border, a container. Sow yourself some in the garden. Keep it watered. Don't let it dry out. Harvest the leaves in lots of different ways. If you're growing chard, don't throw those stems away. Make sure you cook it all. And then just have a look at the other leaves. See what you can get out of the season. I think that's about the message, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah, I'd say so.
That is incredible. So do you think there's enough of that I can take home, please?
Take it home for lunch tomorrow.
Thank you. Cheers, sweetheart.